There is a sickness of the mind that plagues us all. It is a ghost that lives in the future, a future that does not exist. It whispers to you in the dead of night, feeding you 1,000 terrifying possibilities. What if I lose my job? What if I get sick? What if I fail? What if I am not enough? This ghost is anxiety. It is the art of experiencing failure in advance. It is the habit of suffering for things that have not happened and may never happen. You fight it with logic, but it is not logical. You fight it with hope, but it feeds on your hope, twisting it into new fears. You believe that if you just had more control, more certainty, more success, the anxiety would vanish. But the richest kings and most powerful conquerors have been slaves to this same ghost. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the most powerful man in the world found himself cornered by this sickness. He was a Roman emperor, a man who commanded legions and ruled over a quarter of the world's population. Yet every night he was attacked by the same fears that attack you. But instead of surrendering, he forged a weapon. A system of thought so robust and so practical that it could defeat anxiety at its source. He was Marcus Aurelius, and his weapon was Stoicism. This is not a story about a godlike emperor. This is the story of a man, and the system he used to build an unbreakable mind while his world burned around him. When you understand this system, you will not just manage your anxiety, you will learn how to kill it. Before we learn his secrets, I invite you to subscribe. And in the comments, answer this one question: what is the what if that haunts you the most? Acknowledging the ghost is the first step to exercising it. Now, let us enter the mind of the emperor. To understand the cure, you must first understand the poison. Picture Marcus Aurelius in his campaign tent at the edge of the Roman Empire. It is cold. The wind howls outside. He is not in a marble palace. He is on the front lines of a brutal, decade-long war against Germanic tribes. This is his reality. Every day, he faces the possibility of catastrophic military defeat. A plague brought back by his own soldiers is ravaging Rome, killing thousands, including his own children. His most trusted general has just betrayed him, declaring himself emperor and sparking a civil war. His own son and heir, Commodus, is showing signs of becoming the tyrant he will one day be. Imagine the weight of this. The fate of millions rests on his shoulders. The future is not a vague concern. It is a monster at his doorstep. The anxiety he felt would have crushed a normal man. We know this because he wrote it down in a private journal, never meant for publication, which we now call the Meditations. He fought his private war. He wrote not as an emperor, but as a student of a philosophy designed for the battlefield of life, Stoicism. He did not have therapists or self-help books. He had the teachings of a former slave named Epictetus, and the principles of a philosophy that taught him not how to change the world, but how to master his mind. In the flickering candlelight of his tent, surrounded by chaos, he developed a 3-step mental operating system to systematically dismantle his fear of the future. One night, overwhelmed by the news of his general's betrayal, Marcus sat down and wrote a simple, world-changing truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This is the foundation of the Stoic cure for anxiety. It is the first principle, the dichotomy of control. The Stoics believe the world is divided into 2 parts, that which is within our control and that which is not. What is in our control? Only 3 things: our thoughts, our judgments, and our actions. That's it. What is not in our control? Everything else. The weather, the economy, what other people think of you, illness, betrayal, and even death. Anxiety is born from a simple error. We try to control what we cannot. We stake our peace of mind on external outcomes. I will be happy if I get the promotion. I will be calm if my presentation goes well. By doing this, we hand the keys to our inner peace over to the chaos of the outside world. Marcus understood this was a fool's game. He could not control the Germanic tribes. He could not control the plague. He could not control his general's loyalty, but he could control how he responded to these things. He trained his mind to become a fortress. Inside the walls of this fortress were his thoughts and his actions. Outside the walls was everything else. He taught himself that nothing outside the walls could ever truly harm him. The events themselves were not the problem. The problem was his judgment of the events. A psychologist at Columbia University who specializes in cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, explains that this ancient principle is the bedrock of modern psychology. CBT is founded on the Stoic idea that it is not events, but our interpretation of events that causes our suffering. We teach patients to identify what they can and cannot control, and to focus their energy exclusively on the former. It is a 2,000-year-old idea that is still the most effective tool we have against anxiety. By constantly practicing this mental division, Marcus built a sanctuary in his own mind. The world could rage outside, but inside the fortress, he was the emperor. Building the fortress was only the first step. Marcus knew that the future would still find ways to attack it with shock and surprise. So he developed a second, more radical practice. He called it the premeditation malorum, or the premeditation of evils. Most people deal with fear by trying not to think about it. They distract themselves, they hope for the best. The Stoics did the exact opposite. Every morning, Marcus would wake up and perform a terrifying ritual. He would sit and actively imagine everything that could go wrong that day. He would tell himself, "Today I will meet with envy, ingratitude, arrogance, disloyalty, and ill will." He would imagine his armies being defeated. He would imagine the plague worsening. He would imagine being betrayed again. This sounds like a recipe for depression, but its purpose was the opposite. He was not doing this to wallow in fear. He was doing it to strip the future of its greatest weapon, the power of surprise. By rehearsing disaster in his mind, he was vaccinating himself against it. When one of these things actually happened, he would not be shocked or paralyzed. He could say to himself, "I have already thought of this. I am prepared." Modern soldiers use a similar technique called stress inoculation. They are put through brutally realistic training simulations. The goal is to expose them to high-stress situations in a controlled environment, so that when they face the real thing in combat, their minds do not panic. They have been there before. Marcus was doing this mentally. He was rehearsing for life. By looking his fears directly in the eye, he robbed them of their power. He realized that even in the worst-case scenario, betrayal, failure, death, he still had control over one thing: his response. He could still choose to act with courage, with justice, with wisdom. The outcome was never in his control, but his character always was. Let's be honest with each other. You think your anxiety is a sign that you care. You think that by worrying about a problem, you are somehow working on it. This is a lie. Worrying is not work. It is a mental addiction. You are addicted to the illusion of control. By replaying a negative future in your mind, a small, primitive part of your brain feels like it's doing something. It's a mental rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you absolutely nowhere. Your anxiety about the future is not a noble burden. It is a form of arrogance. It is the arrogant belief that you should be able to predict and control the infinite complexities of the universe. It is the arrogant belief that things should go according to your plan. The Stoics would say your anxiety is a failure of humility. It is a refusal to accept the simple and terrifying truth that you are not in control. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, accepted this. Why can't you? You are not afraid of the future. You are afraid of giving up the illusion that you can control it. And until you are willing to sacrifice that illusion, you will remain a slave to your own mind. Marcus had built his fortress and rehearsed for disaster, but he had one final secret, the most powerful principle of all. It was the shift from merely enduring the future to embracing it. The Stoics called it Amor Fati, a love of one's fate. It is one thing to accept what happens. It is another thing entirely to love it. This was the final evolution of his mindset. He trained himself to believe that whatever happened, good or bad, was not just acceptable, but necessary. That the universe, like a wise doctor, was giving him exactly the medicine he needed for his own growth. When the plague struck, it was an opportunity to practice courage and compassion. When his general betrayed him, it was an opportunity to practice forgiveness and justice. Every obstacle was no longer an obstacle. It was the path itself. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is the ultimate cure for anxiety. Anxiety is the result of a conflict between your expectations and reality. Amor Fati dissolves this conflict. If you can truly learn to love whatever happens, there is nothing left to fear. The future can bring whatever it wants. You will see it as a gift, a training partner, a necessary chapter in your story. This is not a passive resignation. It is an active, joyful acceptance of reality. It is the final step in becoming the emperor of your own mind. You do not need to be an emperor to practice these principles. You can begin now. Here is your 3-step plan. First, draw your fortress. Take a piece of paper. Draw a large circle in the center. This is your fortress of the mind, inside the circle. Write down the things you are worried about that are 100% within your control. Your effort, your attitude, your next action. Outside the circle, write down all the things you are worried about that are outside your control. What they will think, if you will succeed, the final outcome. Now, look at that paper. Your only job is to focus on what is inside the circle. Second, rehearse for your day. When you wake up tomorrow, spend 5 minutes doing the premeditatio malorum. Don't look at your phone. Sit in silence and think about the challenges of the day ahead. A difficult meeting, a tough conversation? Imagine it going poorly. Then, imagine how you would respond with character, with patience, with courage. Prepare yourself. Third, practice the Stoic affirmation. The next time something goes wrong, you get stuck in traffic, a project fails, someone is rude to you, do not fight it. Instead, say to yourself quietly but firmly, "Amor Fati, this is what I needed." Reframe the obstacle as an opportunity. It will feel strange at first, but with practice it will change everything. Imagine Marcus Aurelius one last time. An old man, weary from decades of war and loss, writing by candlelight. The world outside his tent is a storm of chaos and uncertainty, but inside, on the page, he is forging a mind that is calm, resilient, and free. He did not defeat the challenges of the future. He defeated the fear of them. He learned that the goal is not to create a perfect, painless future. The goal is to become the person who is strong enough to handle any future that arrives. Your anxiety is a prison, but the door has been open all along. The key is to stop trying to control the world and start learning to control the one thing you truly own, your mind. If this lesson has given you strength, subscribe to the TGR Flurby. It is time to stop being a prisoner of the future and become the emperor of your present. Thank you for watching.